Hey everybody, headed into the biggest fantasy football draft weekend of the year. Everybody and their dog has a sleepers and bust list. Who the heck are we not to do the same? Today's show is all about the busts. And I should be clear right up front. I think this year when I say someone is going to be a draft bust, I'm really not meaning to pick on the player himself. It's much more about not liking his draft value. So today we will show you some negative plays from some players, but clearly they are selectively chosen to make me look as smart as possible. These guys all do have plenty of good plays. We'll show you some of those too, but I quibble with where they're going in fantasy drafts. All right, with that said, let's dig in. First up, I have Latavius Murray, the man we refer to on my podcast as Laxatives Murray, who has actually been a sleeper of mine 2 years running because the market was so low on him with the Vikings. Now that he's bounced over to the Saints, I've basically stayed the same on Murray, and his ADP is the thing that's screaming skyward. It's up to 67th overall in standard, 74th in PPR as of my recording this, which I understand the logic. I just don't agree with it. People who want you selecting Murray in the 5th or 6th round would have you believe, oh, don't worry, he's Mark Ingram. No problem, Ingram leaves, Murray arrives, Alvin Kamara keeps exactly the same workload, Murray becomes a flex on his own, even with Alvin Kamara healthy. But Murray isn't as versatile in a football sense as Mark Ingram. He doesn't catch it all that well. He's actually bigger, but maybe less of a power back. He's a big, upright runner who cuts well for a man his size, but doesn't really string together moves on his own or consistently crush potential tacklers the way Ingram does. Really, it's nothing against Murray, or as Jim McCormick says on the podcast, Mary, but rather it's the idea that his price is really too high to serve as a handcuff. He'd be a great handcuff, the way he was a great handcuff for Dalvin Cook each of the past 2 years, if you could get him in the double-digit rounds. But if Kamara doesn't get hurt, Murray could be borderline unusable at the price of a 5 or a 6. It's just too rich for my blood. We'll be back in a second to keep counting down my list of the bad value players of 2019. Quick break to thank Leesa for sponsoring today. They're the makers of my mattress. It's the one I sleep on every night. And buying a Leesa mattress really risk-free. They deliver direct to your door. They give you 100 nights to try it out. If you don't love it, return it. Get your money back. No questions asked. That's after more than 3 months of making sure that it's perfect for you. So really, completely risk-free. And also, I like to remind you what kind of company that Leesa is. They're a certified B Corp, which means they live up to the highest in corporate and environmental standards. They've donated thousands of mattresses to tons of organizations. They plant a tree for every mattress they sell. They are trying to be good corporate citizens at the same time as they provide us with a good mattress. And I can get you 15% off your new mattress right now when you go to leesa.com and use the code Harris15. 15% off. If you need a new mattress, I hope you'll consider them. Leesa.com and use that code Harris15. Okay, we are back at it with the bust list, and at number 4, I take no pleasure in nominating Baker Mayfield. I really liked his rookie year. When I wrote the almanac this spring and summer, I thought I was being kind of positive and cheeky. I was getting Mayfield all the way up to number 8 on my quarterback list. Then I checked with ADP, and it turned out he's being drafted as the QB4. And unfortunately, I'm just out at the price of the QB4, taking him ahead of Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. I guess that's about Luck's injury, but I think I still would take the risk on Luck. There's a lot to like with what Mayfield did as a rookie. He's able to keep his eyes focused downfield when the rush is on him. He saw deeper routes develop. He stood in. He made accurate throws all over the field, including deep, into deep windows. But at times, he was just a nightmare with his decisions. 3 picks from this same game against the Texans. This first one, Mayfield is going to look for Antonio Callaway running a deep in, and he just mistakes a zone for man. He sees what he wants to do. It's just the wrong thing. Linebacker Zach Cunningham reaches up, snags the ball. in what would have been an open lane if it was man, and Cunningham is gone for a pick six. Very next throw of that same game, it's the same route. Callaway is not the primary option, but once again he runs the deep in, and Mayfield comes off his first read, trying to go through progressions, but wouldn't matter in this case if it were man or zone. This is just a bad decision. Jonathan Joseph has played his quarter of the field and sees Mayfield wind up, and it's an easy interception. And same quarter, now Mayfield is on tilt. He breaks free from pressure, he rolls right. It's hero ball. And if he makes this play work, he's a hero, throwing it into triple coverage. But whether it's intercepted or not, there's too much hero ball on Baker Mayfield's film, too much on the crazy side of just crazy enough. Not fair to pick out only interceptions and bust on Mayfield for them. I mean, he has good weapons. He's got Odell Beckham now. The situation looks like it'd probably be good. It's just that he's never done it before. There are too many safe and very high upside quarterback options for me to spend a 5th round pick on Baker Mayfield until we see him harness the obvious gifts that make him a really, really good dynasty prospect. I have Chris Godwin on this list, and this is why they pay me the big bucks. I do not like calling Chris Godwin a bust. I know all the arguments in favor. I like him very much as a player. I like him as a prospect. I'll be truthful, I have a hard time finding any receivers in the first half of fantasy drafts that the market is higher on than I am. And Godwin is one of those rare guys. He's going pure 4th round all the way, wide receiver 18. It just feels like an aspirational rank to me. I will say really good speed, decent wiggle, fine hands, a decent big play threat. I'm just not sure I'm seeing the future superstar others seem to. I get what people think could go right with the situation. I get people think Bruce Arians will be go, go, go. Jameis Winston will be great just because of volume. Mike Evans gets more defensive attention. I understand Godwin's upside, but taking him in the 4th round feels like not acknowledging his downside. I'm not sure he's a spectacular player. I've likened him on the podcast to early career Pierre Garçon. Not the biggest, but not small. Not the fastest, but not slow. Hard to tackle, maybe not the hardest. A good wingman to a number 1, which is what he is in Tampa. 60, 70 catches, sure. 900 yards, sure. And now we're on to touchdowns. And he had 7 last year, and Deshaun Jackson is gone. And okay, you're painting yourself like a situational picture. But my goodness, if you want to get worried about situation, what could go wrong is, Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston just is Jameis Winston, we're getting Blaine Gabbert games. Like, are we really saying there's no downside to Tampa's offense? Why do we think Jameis Winston isn't signed for next year? This entire team could just be awful. I don't like being in the position of talking bad about Chris Godwin. I just think we're seeing unbridled optimism in which I will not be partaking. The case of James Conner is interesting. He is 10th overall ADP-wise in Standard. He's 11th overall in PPR. He's 12th overall in Superflex. There really isn't a league in the world where James Conner isn't considered a first-round pick. I have him as a mid-late second-rounder. So again, is this an outrage? No. It's obvious he could score a whole bunch of touchdowns. He could take advantage of a wonderful situation and just be amazing. But I think it's at least useful for you to hear me make the argument that Conner shouldn't be a fantasy first-rounder. Does anybody actually think he's an excellent player? If Conner was on a different team, if he were on the Eagles or the Titans, would we like him at all? Wouldn't he basically be bigger Jordan Howard, bigger Chris Carson? Physical as all get out, decent hands as like a flare kind of receiver, but not going to run a ton of complicated routes. He's going to be just sort of a dump-off screen guy. Just overall a big lumbering dude. And one who unfortunately has been an injury risk for a while. We are paying an absolute premium, top of the market, for a situation. And I'm doing that too. Let's not paint me as some like pure aesthete here. I'm not a saint. I'm putting a pretty average running back 17th overall in Standard, 21st in PPR, because I have eyeballs, and I can see that running behind that Steelers offensive line has been a gold mine, and there really isn't anything else great on the depth chart, and the Steelers do tend to score a lot of points. but how much emphasis on situation is too much? There is an X% chance that without their superstars at running back and receiver, both, that the Steelers aren't the same thing anymore. The line is a year older. The quarterback is a year older. Not telling you everything is over for Pittsburgh, but I'm telling you we're pricing Connor as though we don't care whether he's Le'Veon Bell or Isaac Redman. Understanding the upside, I get it, but I feel like I reach my limit mid-late second. If things go badly for Connor, it could be a tough one for people who take him in the first round. Okay, and my number one bust at his current ADP is Tevin Coleman. On the channel last week, you heard me talk about post-hype sleepers, and I included both Matt Breida and Jerick McKinnon on that list before McKinnon started to look really shaky to play early this year because his surgically repaired knee is already bothering him. And the reason behind that inclusion was the same reason Tevin Coleman is on this list. He's 49th overall in standard right now, 54th in PPR, late 4th or early 5th, with about 70 spots between him and Matt Breida. I just don't understand this. I wonder what Tevin Coleman has done in his NFL life to make people so confident that he's way out in front of Breida. He's made some long plays on screen passes for sure, and he's a bigger guy for how fast he is. He's really fast. And it showed when the Falcons were able to get him into the clear. This kind of thing was consistent with Atlanta when you saw him run like this, and I'm not sure how amazing it shows he is to get in the open and then run real fast, but I think it's obvious he is real fast. But he got the golden opportunity last year with the Falcons, and I'm afraid he just didn't do that much with it after Devontae Freeman got hurt. He was okay. He scored some touchdowns. I watch him and I sort of say, come on, man, cut or accelerate. Don't you see those people? Don't you see those people trying to tackle you? For such a good athlete, I'm not sure I find Coleman to be all that dynamic of a football player. I'm not sure he sees it great. I'm not sure he strings many moves together. The way, for example, Matt Breida often did last season. Matt Breida strung moves together, saw tacklers, got away, made moves. People will connect dots. They'll say, oh, Kyle Shanahan, he loved Tevin Coleman in Atlanta. He'll use him here a million times. Except, I'm pretty sure Shanny Jr. just used Matt Breida in San Fran, didn't he? We're to the point where we watched Coleman flop around losing time to Ito Smith in the second half of last year, and now he dominates Matt Breida. Now, I'm not as mad about Coleman's market this summer as I was about Alex Collins last summer. But it's the same kind of issue. I think the market is evaluating everything but the player, looking at depth chart and contract and coach, and forgetting to decide if the guy they want to be an every week starter on their fantasy team is even the best running back on his own NFL team. Matt Breida, I think, is a hilariously better draft value. I will take him in the double-digit rounds all day and let someone else start Tevin Coleman. And that is it. That's my bust list. Again, it's not really disliking the players as much as it is disliking their ADP, but I know these guys are popular, and I know you may be watching this video thinking, I want all those guys. My fantasy draft guide tells me to draft all those guys. And if that's the case, you know what? Tell us in the comments. Let us know how crazy I am. We'd love to hear from you. Until tomorrow, hey, no matter what you think of our bust list, let's get ready for our drafts together.